And here we are. Feels like a while since we've done this. Feels like an eternity since we've had Jack with us. Jack, how you doing, babe?
I'm doing great, honey. How are you?
I am doing very, very well. I'm doing very well. Apparently this glove is winning the fight. So tonight, I'm going to continue working on the Castle Keeper's Guide. I'm going to work on it just for tonight, and then Tuesday and Wednesday of this week, we're going to dedicate towards Necropolis, and I am going to finish that first level that we've been working on. That is the goal for the week. Why am I working on Necropolis tonight? Well, we really were busting out this particular map that you see on screen last Wednesday with Stephen Chenault. And I want to see if I can really bust out the others to the same degree. I want to see how far I can take this. I also want to work on these buildings. I want to see if I can quickly colour them in. That's my objective for tonight. Before we do that, thank you so much, all of you Patreon supporters and you Twitch subscribers. Your support has actually enabled me to get a GoPro 8 microphone, lights, etc. I did a quick test earlier on in preparation for our 17th anniversary? No, our anniversary on the 17th of our Patreon, and they're working out pretty good, so watch out for the video on that. And Wednesday will be our anniversary stream. Pex is going to be our guest, and he's got gifts to give away. So until then, let's jump into this, shall we? Jack, you probably didn't know any of that, did you? Hey, Alex.
Some of that. I did want to comment. I'm keeping my voice a little lower because listening to the stream, my voice is real loud. I think I need to drop 50%.
How about that? You might want to talk some more to test it.
Yeah, test it. Let's see.
It's kind of weird. It's like we've had people complain in the past that you've been too quiet. And and the volume's been way up, and now you're too loud. So now we're taking the volume down.
And now I'm a little too low. So it's like maybe 20% back higher.
How about that one right there?
All right. I know we hate doing the sound things at the starting, but I figured it'd be better.
It's like all of the time. It's got to be tweaked. Right. But it did reset something. So.
All right. I think we're on the same level now.
Okay. Oh, you changed your background again.
I did. I am now the Sith Eternal Emperor sitting on my throne in Exegol. I know, right? And I didn't mean to ignore you, Alex. I said hello. Kaifer, yes, sound checks are they're such a pain. They're such a pain.
Especially when stuff just resets like that too.
Yeah. So yeah, I did know that the Patreon anniversary thing was coming up, so that's cool. But I didn't know that Pex was going to be your guest on Wednesday. That Wednesday, you said?
Mm-hmm.
That's actually really cool. That's a lot of fun. Pex is the man. We love Pex. So I know this is a totally unrelated to Patreon, totally unrelated to Castle Keeper's Guide and the coloring, totally unrelated to my background, totally change of subject. I was wondering, I know for TotalCon this year, it's going to be virtual TotalCon, and you're actually going to be running a game. You're actually going to be running one of your Cthulhu Invictus, Call of Cthulhu games, which is cool, and I love it. It kind of goes to a question I was pondering. Hey, Princess Strega!
Hey, Princess!
Hooray!
Huzzah!
Keeping the chain of subscription. That's fantastico.
It's very much appreciated, Princess. Thank you.
So it goes to, I remember once when you started running your Cthulhu Invictus, you were talking about the toying with the idea of maybe doing almost kind of like a persistent campaign, or like an overarching storyline that you wanted to maybe either write or find or do or kind of do. So you would have almost like a thematic convention game series that would be a continuation, and people, it didn't have to always be the same players, it could be different players, but if players came back to your table and were playing a new adventure, if they had somebody that had been in a previous game of yours, they could play that same character, and they would have all of the stuff that they may have acquired from that, maybe if they had, maybe even leveled up or something, what have you. I was wondering actually about that in general, and I know that the Frog Gods actually have a persistent world for every convention that they go to. Like everything that happens at the convention exists in their world, and I was wondering about is that something that you think is difficult to do? Is that something that's actually viable for all game types? The thought of persistent worlds just in campaign games, or not campaign games, convention games, excuse me. What are some of the things that you should try to not do, things to avoid? Obviously you've never run one, but just what are things that you think about that would work or not work for a persistent setting in general? How would you approach it? Because I know you haven't done it yet, but you've toyed kind of with the idea.
What, me?
Yes. The question. No, the other guest. We have a third guest, everybody. Little did we know there was another person coming to the table.
Before I get into that, Pex Whoosh is into the channel. Green Lantern, good to see you. Princess Stregger's got a game in the hopper. She's stoked. That's fantastic. So for me, I think one of the fundamental... this is obviously the first time I've heard this question, so I'm just going to answer this somewhat ad hocly. I actually think that one of the first things that I would want to ensure was happening is that players had a sense of persistence, and I think for that, I would have to absolutely ensure that there was some way of recording the state of the world and what had happened so far, and that they had access to it. I want to say complete and utter transparency into the state of things. You know what I'm saying? And so far I don't have that, at all. So I don't so I'm going to run the game this Saturday coming, actually, with the same group that we've done, I want to say 2 or 3 games with previously. They're using the same characters. Mm-hmm. So for them, there's a certain amount of persistence. But this will be maybe their 3rd adventure that they're going to do. And while I could tie it in thematically, they won't necessarily know. It's just going to be another one-off to them. So I think having some continuity of world, characters, NPCs, certainly the story, that's an obvious one, but being able to see that, to feel that it's going on with 6-month gaps in between. And I think for that, I would want to actually have some kind of diary, archive, world anvil type of thing going on.
Almost like a WordPress or a Wikia or a blogger or something, some sort of site that chronicles what has happened in the previous.
I think you'd have to, right?
Right, maybe even who the players were and what characters they played, that type of thing.
Yes.
Okay.
And who they came up against, what the outcome was from that.
Okay.
It's a bit like, in our regular sort of game for our home group, there's this, every single time, even though we were playing every other week, we would send out a synopsis of everything that had happened so far for everyone, just to get their heads back in the game. Can you imagine a 6-month gap? I mean, you need that, right? And there is going to be actually more than a 6-month gap, even in the real world sense too. And I'm going to have to get people up to speed. I think for convention games where a player may not actually be able to rejoin that game or that world for years.
Right.
I think having and things might advance in the world outside of that player's awareness. I think you have to record that. You have to capture it.
Right. If they weren't able to make a convention and something. And as a quick aside, huzzah! Obsidian Risk, welcome to the Legion.
Wait, we're still... Cloudbot is still showing a private site? What the hell's going on? I saw Princess Stregger's thing. What is going on there? Maybe
Yeah,
we need to disconnect the cloud bot.
Princess Strega was that obviously it was may have just been a Twitch thing because that was just a subscription that she just subscribed. Obsidian Risk that just subscribed as well. Theirs came up, and then but it seems like the Cloudbot other things are having issues still.
Well, I did not know that we were still having problems in that regard. My apologies, everyone.
Phantom Jen, hello and welcome, fellow potatoes. Yes, hello. Let's see, Princess Strega says, for a game world I am developing, I'm planning on making a setting Bible. TV shows have a series Bible, so I want something similar to help keep track of things.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what we're talking about. Exactly.
And Alex Vixen agrees that story and world Bibles are always a good thing. Yeah, definitely. You know, and major events that occur that would create an issue. Obviously, if someone was planning on doing this, they wouldn't be able to run the same adventure again, you know, because otherwise it'd be like, well, wait a minute, technically these events have already occurred. It says so in the Bible. The creature that was housed in the amber that broke free it's already broken free before. It can't break free again.
I think that's a really interesting point, because one of the things that I wanted to be able to do was, let's say, play the Alabaster Queen Chapter 1, the Alabaster Queen Chapter 2, and do so on a repeated basis so people could drop into chapters that they'd not done before. Now that, though, would mean that those chapters are continually running over and over and over. So what then is canon? I suppose what you'd have to do is have a canon game. The outcome from this is the first time I'm running Alabaster Queen 5, the results will become canon. But I can still run 5 outside of that.
Okay. It's almost like you're doing like you're doing the special canon event. This, whatever happens at this event will be what happens in the world.
Alright, Pex, let's maybe just try and... Well, tomorrow's a bit of a poo day for me. But let's try and connect over in the next 48 hours, Pex, and we'll figure it out. Or see if we can figure it out.
Princess saying a one-shot campaign set in the past with the potential to create an alternative setting. That would be probably hard to track if you kept doing it over and over and over. As like a one-off, yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you in the song.
Well, yeah.
I'm trying to coordinate with the Pex man. So am I mistaken in seeing that you're doing 2 at the same time?
I'm going to actually do 3. I'm going to try and do 3 at the same time. This one I'm going to call done, except for the shadows. Shadows! And we'll do all of the shadows together in one go. I mean, this looks good. I mean, I don't want to dick about with that anymore. Finished. I'm going to move on to this one. I'm going to do the water. I'm going to do the water, and I'm going to do the water. And then we'll come back into it. So I'm just going to start bouncing between them, I think.
Great stuff. So everybody always, if anybody was wondering why I keep turning my head this way, it's my secondary screen is where I've actually got the live stream up and running. So it's not like I'm like looking at a book or something over here. I'm just looking at the other camera.
He's bored. He's bored of us already.
Bored of us already.
I think this island was Green Lantern's island, if I remember rightly.
I was thinking the reason why obviously this was coming up is because something that you've been saying, and it's something that I was hoping to do for, you know, when I do. Here we go. Garfield the Humid. Thank you for joining the Legion.
Thank you. Thank you for the follow. Very much appreciated. Just so you know what we've been doing here. We've been working on this. She says, period. 12 maps for Castle Keeper's Guide.
No explanation. This is it. Done.
You up to speed now? Okay.
But yeah, it got me thinking, because obviously it was something that you were talking about, and like the frogs do it with the persistent world thing, and you know, it's something that I was wanting to do for when I run Shadowrun for everybody for things, and I meant to ping Ian. I pinged him about fried chicken recipes. I didn't actually ask him about any nights that may work for playing Shadowrun. But it's one of those things where I kind of liked something that Pathfinder did. I know that Pathfinder and Wizards of the Coast with D&D. So D&D and Pathfinder have these these adventures that they do at conventions, and so you can actually record on a little sheet. Yes, I've done this adventure. This is what I got from it. Blah blah blah. And they have like that whole adventurer's log or adventurer's chronicle, where you can go to like official sanctioned games from the company. And I'm like, well, that's cool. And one of the things that I like that Pathfinder did is that theoretically the players are all supposed to be these. The reason why the system is called Pathfinders, you're supposed to be these Pathfinders. You're supposed to be like these professional mercenaries or adventurers that are trying to do good, or trying to stop evil, or trying to look into weird things, weird shenanigans, or look into ancient ruins to try to discover, things. And I always liked that there were like these chapter houses, these like these Pathfinder lodges, where it was almost like a sanctuary where they could rest and heal up and get information from other Pathfinders, that kind of thing. And I kind of liked that idea, and I was wondering about the validity of doing that as well. I mean, if you remember, Andre ran a game at TotalCon last year that we played in where, while it wasn't necessarily what I'm talking about, we were like, the players were all part of, it was a Cthulhu Invictus game, and we were all part of the same, let's call it mercenary corps. We were all like part of the same organization. We were a group of adventurers that looked into, evil things going on in the world. And I kind of like that. It kind of gave, especially for a convention game, because in convention games, you don't know the other people you're playing with most of the time. And so it kind of, the game forced us all to be like, you're comrades, you know each other, you've been adventuring forever, you guys used to be in soldiers together, you've all retired from service in the military, and now you're doing it for the good of the world. It's like, okay, cool. Let's take out that, the ambiguity of like, who are we? What's going on? So, just trying to think of like that type of thing, if that's something that's worth having, or not, or is it, something that how do you prefer that? Like, especially like if let's say you're trying to do a continual game, but every game session is like a new group of people. Do you just say these are just random people that get thrown into this situation? Do you like the idea of like a company or a lodge or a, society, or, where's your head on that, Alyssa?
I want to make sure we're following chat too, just in case, because I saw Alex Vixen did it led the response, and I don't know how relevant it is.
Yeah, so Alex Vixen says that when I did a campaign Bible, I had the prime timeline, which shows how events happen without the players being involved, iconic NPC champions being in their place, and then the player timeline, which I took notes for each session and covered how the players changed how things panned out.
I think a society is fine, and it would still totally work for Shadowrun, or Call of Cthulhu, or anything like that. Especially even Call of Cthulhu, because you have secret societies and things. And that could totally navigate through the whole, what are we doing, why are we here, why are we working together. I think that's totally doable. The thing that still it comes back to is if you run the same game more than once for more than one group, the random series of Shadowrunners, how do you handle group 1 killing a bad guy, group 2 not killing a bad guy? What becomes canon? How do you move on from that?
Right. I think and I guess I would pose that same question to you, and it may, unless you still stand by your initial answer, which would be, you would have one game that this is the canon storyline, and every other one is an alternative universe that sadly it didn't happen this way, but here's that same adventure that doesn't affect the main timeline.
So, sorry, I was just reviewing chat. So, I think, regardless of how you derive canon, it still comes back to the same thing. Even if you took 6 games and decided which one is canon, even if you ahead of time said this is the game that's going to be canon, Or even if you ran all 6 games and then decided from those what the canon result was, for 5 of the games, if not 6 of the games, you're going to be breaking their experience from the point of view of, we may actually go with something else. I don't think that can be avoided. Even with something like a Pathfinder Society, my understanding was the world kind of evolved somewhat independently of individual player actions. Isn't it like a little bit like the Magic the Gathering? There's an entire... No. The 5 Rings. Was it 5 Rings?
Oh, Legend of the 5 Rings, right.
Where there's this evolving storyline going on that really has nothing to do with 99.9% of player actions. And I think that's how I would have to do it. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't intend to run Chapter 1 for the Alabaster Queen, really, more than maybe the 4 or 5 times that I have run it. And I think if I was to go to make lore out of this, I would, honestly, I think I would go with maybe a little bit of a cross-section of those games at this point. Otherwise, I would say ahead of time, this is going to be canon.
Gotcha.
And right down to if the players lost and I had to rerun the game, if it was canon, the previous party was lost.
Right. King Kothar says, "Imagine having a canonical sequence of events in your tabletop RPG." Yeah, that's kind of what we're talking about. Exactly. That was my question of having, if you were wanting to run a persistent worlds in like convention games, but how would you approach doing the same adventure multiple times? How do you determine which one of those was canon for the story?
Yeah, I think Midwest, you might have come in partway through, my friend, so you might be missing some context. We're talking about if you were running at a convention and wanted to link those games somehow into a cohesive story, but you ran the same game at different conventions for different groups, how would you go about ensuring continuity of world and the story as a whole? We're not talking about the pros and cons of necessarily running for a private group versus a con group, but if you were going to do con-style games and somehow tie them into a overarching storyline, what are the pits and falls of that, and how do you overcome them?
Yeah, King Kothar, the con scene is definitely... King Kothar says that for them, the con scene would be the wrong venue for that type of storytelling unless the adventure was specifically structured to facilitate the experience. Right, and obviously, I agree, a home game is definitely way more conducive for an overarching campaign, or that type of thing. And I guess that's the difference. I guess a persistent world and necessarily a campaign, I guess, could theoretically be separate from each other, especially if you did keep a pretty detailed a world Bible, like both Strega and Alex Dixon was talking about, where you were able to chronicle the various adventures.
Let me give a real world example of this, okay? And you may not be able to relate, folks, but here's a real world example. Masks of Nyarlathotep. It's got something like 5 or 6 chapters, and there's a prelude chapter as well. It's a world-hopping campaign, and all of the chapters take place in a particular country. England, America, Peru, Egypt, Africa, Australia. And you can play individual chapters in any order as a stand-alone story. You just can. However, there's no denying that they do relate to each other. So, if, let's say, you happen to run these individual chapters for 3 friends, and 2 people that kept coming in and out, those 2 people would still have a context for what is happening in the world. The things that maybe they had experienced the events in America, and now they were rejoining in Egypt, they would still understand some of the NPCs and the villain, those names that would get bantered around, and the fact that there's a bigger and bigger story getting emerged here. They would have had some experience of that. There's no denying that. To them, there is a sense of story, even though they've only experienced maybe 2 of the 4 chapters. And that could happen in real life too, right? I would argue then, when you get to the end, and there's the final conflict, the results are influenced by what had happened in England and what had happened in America and what had happened in Africa, etc. The decision then is, if you happen to run this Masks of Nyarlathotep over a couple of years, and not your group hadn't been perfectly static during that entire time, and maybe you actually even had a 75% different group for England and a 75% different group for Egypt, how do you determine the results of those key milestones for that final battle? Especially, let's say for the sake of argument, you ended up running England twice for two different groups, but there was an overlap between the groups. Maybe you had some players that were the same. Can you, we're not even talking about railroading here. That's not even a part of the picture. It's like, how do you take these separate stories that are related 100% and make them cohesive to the player as an experience?
Right. There's been a lot of responses, so I'm going to catch up a little bit. Let's see. Kafir says, I remember wrapping up an SR2 game, and a guy who used to be our GM before we learned how shit he was pretty much forced his way to the table. I let him in because he was how funny he was. I thought he was bringing an OP character to the table and would be awesome. He was the most useless character there, and it was glorious. Oh, it was a segue. That was a side comment. That's actually kind of funny. So, not only were they a crap GM, but they were kind of a crap player. Okay. Apparently, they had a very inflated sense of their role-playing abilities, though. Apparently, interesting. King Kothar says, again, talking before you described kind of what you were doing, he was still wondering about the validity of this type of thing, and he was saying that ones that probably are more practical for adventuring and like cons and stuff would be like an adventure that's a gauntlet that's run as a sporting event. Multiple teams of adventuring groups. That could be a thing.
I think I could also add a little bit of extra context here too, folks, at least from my perspective. I run, let's say, 4 conventions a year, and the same players crop up over and over and over. People want to play in my game, and it's the same people, typically, over and over, that want to play in my game. So, if at the table there's always 50% familiar faces, is this, strictly speaking, a convention game at this point? And if I have the same player in the first chapter and the second chapter and the third chapter, then
right,
how's that any different than a home game at this stage,
Yeah, except for just extended periods of time. Let's see. Green Lantern says it's all about telling the story from the beginning to the final destination. The players make their own decisions on how they get there, but they always end up getting there. Right. Midwest says, okay, so because we clarified, and so he's saying, okay, if I was doing that type of storyline for a main campaign, I'd give them all a different character to play with the same scenario. Kind of like what Alyssa was talking about. If one group fails, then the next group is going after them or fighting the bodies, etc. Let's see. Magnificent Pex, I would still lean towards World Anvil because you could publish articles to individuals in whole or in part. Yeah, see, I guess that would be a cool way to do the World Bible, was using some of the online tools out there like World Anvil, where you could do maps and you could do links. It's almost like a cool. It's almost like if Wiki got upgraded. I mean, World Anvil looks like it's pretty freaking cool. I've only looked at it a little bit, but it looks like a really cool online program to sign up for. Midwest, you ran a 12-year campaign with multiple PCs over multiple countries and continents. 12 years. Now, in real life, 12 years, or in the game, it was 12 years. Either way, holy smokes. I mean, real world 12 years is crazy town. In the game, 12 years, it's like, whoa, was there a lot of fast forwards? 1 year later.
Akoden has been in one of my games, apparently. Akoden, which game was that? Which con?
Okay. Kodokan. Yeah, which one was it? Oh, if it was the one with me, I apologize. I'm just kidding. Valentine 9K did your little emoji, your little wine emoji. You have heart eyes on it. Look at that.
Yeah, because it's wide.
I.
Oh, by the way, we do have emotes in the channel now.
Yay! Alyssa emotes, and I didn't know. I saw the version before the hard eyes got added. Hard eyes, mother. Do you need a top up of wine?
Yes, please.
All right, I'll be right back, everybody.
Brian, good to see you in the channel. I'm just slaving away to try and bust this one out. I want this completely finished in March. Yeah, no, Alex Vixen, no, yes, okay, protection and everything to one side. I probably wouldn't put it in World Handball. No, there are better tools for that type of purpose. Yes, if it's like if you want to protect your stuff, blah 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 blah. No, not World Handball. But for the mechanics of just capturing the information, making it available to players, I think that in spirit, that's what we're talking about. Oh, hold on a minute. Hold on. I couldn't. Yeah. Okay, so you were playing, oh, shoot, man. I remember the one. Because it started off with you witnessing, like, someone getting murdered and thrown in the river, right? And you just jumped in. It was just like, I'm going in to, like, save this guy. Then you looked at your swim skill. Yes. Yes. I forget the name of that one. But that was like a 1920s, I think, version.
That was the one with me then.
That was the one with you. You were there. No, but I love it. I love it when players. I remember that game now. That was a fun game. That was a fun game. That was some messed up stuff. That was the one where you had an altercation with the police, right? You knew the police were in on it. And it's like, how do you actually approach your situation? Well, eventually it was kicking off, Ethel. Forget the name of that game. Well, look, we got a redeemed wine. So that worked.
Well, no, it wasn't.
What?
It wasn't a redemption. It was just the emoticon being used. And
No, Princess Drago just did a redeemed wine.
Hey.
And it worked. Oh, that was the game. Cheers, hon. That was the game where you found out that the British royal family had a history of like having this deep one virus running through their blood. I remember. Blood and water. Blood and water. That was a fun game. You know, I normally run Cthulhu Invictus because that's what people expect from me. So that was one of few games, if not the only one in a while, where I actually just ran regular Cthulhu. I should branch out more. I just love running Cthulhu in general. I should run like the Dark Ages one. I should do a Gaslight one. I should do a futuristic one. I should really branch out.
Yeah,
Oh, I got you, Pax. Okay.
Yeah, for the life of me, I can't remember who I played that game. I have the character sheet somewhere, actually. Let me see if I can find it.
Yeah, the latest edition of Call of Cthulhu is well worth owning, Princess. It's such a clean, easy rule set. It's honestly, I think every time I've run it, you just put a character sheet in front of people, you're 30 seconds explaining rules and you're in. It's that fast every time.
Yeah, considering it's a See that number? Roll your percentage dice. Roll that number or less. Go. Great. Let's do this.
Yeah. And if you roll really low, let's talk. Let's go. Yeah.
And if you roll really high over it, let's talk again. Let's have the bad talk.
Cthulhu we actually had a person play in our Masks of Nyarlathotep game for a couple of sessions, and she's not even a role player. She is the wife of one of our regular players. She doesn't role play, never wants to role play at all. Listened to our game being run at her house and was converted. She was like, this is amazing. I want to know where the story is going. And it was the story that hooked her. And before you know it, she's sitting at the table with a bloody character rolling dice. And like, she was intimidated by the dice too, but it's simple. Just roll them, you know?
Yeah, to give everybody a little bit of context with that, it was really funny because when we were all playing at their home, our friend's house, and his wife, she was just kind of pottering around, and then she was like, I'm gonna let you guys all play. I'm just gonna go sit on the couch over there and just read my book. And we were like, cool, thanks. Well, little did we know, she had her book open, but she wasn't actually reading it because she was really listening into the game, and she was so into it. She was so into the story and so into what was going on that at one point we were all sitting around like we were looking at the clues, and we were like, what was the name of that guy that we were listening for? And she was like off on the couch, and she was like, Lord Rockford. And we were like, what? And she's like, his name was Lord Rockford. He works at the Royal Academy. And we were like, how do you remember this? And she's like, aren't any of you paying attention? It was hilarious. She was so hooked by the story. It was great. And then we had one of our primary players like bow out. We were like, you want to join in for a game? And she was like, no, the big old grin on her face. And then she was in. It took us a minute to explain the dice for her, but then she was like, okay, because again, she's like normal board game, like D6s, so we're like, okay, these are percentage dice, both of these are tens, so yeah.
And she gets it now. She understands role playing.
So now whenever we do a game, we always CC her on like the story recaps, like Alyssa was saying we do at the beginning of every game, just so she is, she's able to keep up with the story. So should she ever want to join in again, she can. And she dug the story, so. Kafir, a good GM has the players help tell the story. A bad GM or player wants to beat the people. Yeah, there are many players that GMs definitely like to just beat their players into oblivion. I personally am not a fan of that. I don't like playing in those types of games, and I don't want to be that type of GM myself. But there's also a lot of players that like play games to beat the game. Like I actually remember a guy back in 3.5, D&D Dungeons and Dragons 3.5 edition, and he was a rules lawyer / grognard / min-maxer. He built classes and combinations of feats and prestige classes and skills and all these things that were like, I will make the most unbeatable player character ever.
Do I know this guy?
No, you don't.
Okay.
We know another guy who liked to create very overpowered characters. But no.
But you're talking about someone to win.
He wanted to win D&D, and he was a guy that if the GM decided he like ruled something, he was a guy that could be like, according to the Dungeon Master Guide on page 237, this rule specifically says this. And the GM that was running the game was like, I'm the GM, I can do what I want. And he was like, but the book says. And he lost his shit because the GM was like, I can do whatever I want. The rules are more like guidelines. To quote Pirates of the Caribbean. Oh, we've got quotes coming in. What's happening?
Tulan, thank you for the follow. Very much appreciated. And Pex is logged in as me, which is why you think that's me typing it, but it's not.
Oh, I was wondering why you were saying things.
I'm typing with.
Like,
that's how good I am.
I am mentally projecting my text into the chat.
Some GMs are like that though too, right? I mean, some GMs want to win the game, and that's a different type of group. That's a different type of adventure. I like running stories myself, and I don't know where the story's going to end up. I want the players to show me. That's my type of GMing style. That's what I want to get out of it. I think Jack, you're like that.
Yeah. I create. Your new member, Atulan, was asking what's happening tonight.
Well, we are talking about campaigns and players and Dungeons and Dragons and other types of games in general, but I am going to zoom out and I am going to show you this. This is a series of 12 maps for Troll Lord Games. It's for a book called The Castle Keeper's Guide. Think of the Dungeon Master's Guide, but their version of it, and part of that book is talking about settlements, thorps, hamlets, village, towns, cities, fortified cities, and towers, motte and bailey, marching camps. So we're drawing these. Well, we have drawn, but we're drawing these maps for them. I'm doing it on one canvas because sexy, and I'm in the process of coloring now. I've got these 3. There, and there with the white buildings. We've got those 3 to colour, and I'm doing it in this style. And I'm kind of hopping between them, so I could like pick a colour, pick a brush, boom, 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 boom. And so I'm colouring water right now. Yeah, a thorp is like this really small version of a hamlet. So a thorp, by definition, is almost like a family or 2. Maybe a small extended family. So imagine like someone had that little farming area, and then he's got sons that grow up, and the sons maybe get married or whatever, and have children of their own. And so maybe you've got 6 houses, and like maybe 25 people. That's a thorp, super small.
And everybody is pretty much kind of saying the same thing that you said, where they like Lord Dalius is coming in with it, and Kodo Ken is coming in with it, where they like campaigns where there's a rich world out there. There's some interesting storylines that are going on where the players and the GM get to help bring these things out. I too am a big fan of that. I saw someone was, I don't know if it was a joke, but it was definitely there's the try to railroad the players without letting them know that you're railroading them. Yeah, there is that, but I'm also a big fan of like, here's the big quest, here's the main adventure, but the players have so many opportunities to do a whole bunch of things on the side, and hopefully you do something that is overarching enough, that's a threat enough or intriguing enough that the players want to investigate it. But I also don't want players to feel like they have to, like they want to do side things. That was actually something that I actually felt as one of my failings for my last fantasy game that I tried running, was I created something that the players felt like the situation was too dire. They felt like it was too urgent, and that every other side quest I tried throwing at them, they were like, we don't have time for that. We have to go. We've got to go do main questy thing. And I was almost like, dang it, I made it seem like it was too world ending of an event. And the players like, we don't care about these side quests. Get out of our face with that. We got to go this way. And I was like, darn it. If that's what the players wanted to do, great. But at the same time, they were literally like flat out telling people to their faces, no, we will not help you with your problem because we've got a bigger problem than you. It was like, oh, crap. Okay.
Right, and I think, the whole sort of railroad thing has a bad rap. But at the end of the day, I've also played in a game that was so open-ended that we were like completely clueless as to what to do, because it was a type of thing like, okay, so you wake up, what do you want to do? And it's like, I don't know, does anyone need help?
Was that a modern one with superpowers?
Yes, it was.
I was part of that game, and I remember that very much. Yes, that was a little too open-ended.
So when someone says railroading, but it doesn't feel like railroading, is what Jack's talking about. It's like, Yeah, there's a quest, that I've got in mind here. There's an adventure that I've got in mind, and I want to like spin this in such a way where it feels in alignment with how you want your character to sort of spend his time. If it's not in alignment, then the player should have a right to go, I'm going to do something else instead. But, railroading is not necessarily train tracks, cannot get off them. That's bad railroading.
Yeah. I always remember it was a newbie GM we played with who was running an adventure series out of a series of books. And in the adventure series, it was like the players should go on this hunt in the forest with this NPC because this is where things are going to happen. There's going to be an ambush, there's going to be bad guys, the guy's going to get captured. Well, when he had this guy show up, we had never met him before. He was supposed to be like some cool, swanky, like noble guy who was supposed to take a shine to the players, and the players a shine to him. But the thing was, is the GM role-played him as a total douche nozzle, very full of himself, very arrogant. And so when he was like, let's go off on this hunt, we were like, no, thanks. We're good.
No.
And the GM, because he was a newbie GM and he was following like the guidelines of the book, he was like, what do I do now? And he was like, he tried pulling out a couple of stops. And I think we as the players, I don't remember exactly, but I think we as the players were like, I think we realized, okay, we're going to have to do this even though we don't want to, because the GM is not experienced enough to understand that he totally botched this situation and he has no backup plan. So we're going to have to, so we very reluctantly were like, sure, buddy, how about you hire us as bodyguards and we'll watch your back while we go out into this forest, but we're not hunting with you because you're an ass. And he was like, great, that works. Okay, he pays you all to be his bodyguards. We were like, he was just like, oh, thank God, they're back on track. He didn't know how to railroad. He was really bad at railroading, but he was a newbie, so. Bad role-playing. GM has a PC. I always am a fan of the GM having an NPC in the party, but not if they're going to totally dictate where the players go. I always like having an NPC there that's part of the party, that's like that I'm able to control, just so there's somebody that can go, if I may offer an opinion, I'm not telling we should do this, but here's something that perhaps we haven't thought of. What do you guys think? And if the players still go, that's interesting, we're gonna do the other thing, that's cool. That's cool. At least I offered an alternative you didn't initially think of.
An NPC in the party can be a useful tool as well to help actually just mentally reset the group as a whole. Like when the group is getting stuck or fixated on one thing, it's okay to have like someone sit there, maybe the NPC, that says, have you thought about that maybe the hobgoblins aren't intended to do that? Because I've actually witnessed players a lot of the time go, oh, snap back to reality. And it just resets them. And you don't need to do anything more than that. I've actually run with NPCs in a party for decades, and never had it railroad the game like at all.
I want to respond to both Kafir and Alex Vixen, but first, K George 1991. Hi, you two. I just dropped in to say hello and I miss you guys. K George, is that Kim George?
It is.
It
is. I love you, Kim.
I miss you too. It's been so long. I mean, this whole last year's been convention boo because of pandemic, but that's fantastic that you stopped by. Hello.
We miss you, girl.
And yes, so going back to Kafir, and am I pronouncing that right? Kafir? Is it Kafir or is it Kafir? I apologize for being a dope. Anyways, but yes, you and Alex Vixen got it perfectly. Kafir said, that sounds like Pathfinder, and Alex Vixen goes, that sounds like Lord Foxglove played badly from Rise of the Rune Lords. You guys nailed it.
You nailed it.
Exactly who and what that was. Yes, it was horrible. Kiefer. Okay, so it is Kiefer, not Kafir, but Kiefer.
In all fairness, though, the Pathfinder games were pretty badly written in that respect, and if you're not I'm gonna say seasoned GM, able to think on your feet, like there's no way that particular GM would think, oh, this guy needs to be liked by the players. I'm gonna throw out what Paizo has written because he's a tool, and I'm gonna do something different. I'm gonna play him differently. The
Right.
GM in question was never gonna come to that conclusion.
Right, kind of like those the adventure paths in Pathfinder, almost like kind of like we were talking about the golden rule of role playing. They're more like guidelines. It's like you need to use those. Yeah, that's the core of your story, but you have to have some flexibility.
It's not just those though. I want to say almost any scenario. That's the
That's
case.
true. That's true. That's true. And, you know, because the crazy thing is if the adventure path specifically says Lord Foxglove comes off as arrogant, or he's supposed to be a prick, or he's supposed to be high and mighty and noble, that's cool, but you can make an arrogant, brash character like that and still make him likable. Look at Lord Flashheart from the Blackadder series.
Yeah.
Or Captain Flashheart, as he is in Blackadder 4. You know, so whether it's and then even he's in Blackadder 3. I think he's only in one episode in Blackadder. Well, actually, he's only in one episode in every season. But the Rick Mayall character that kind of repeats throughout time in all of the Blackadder series, he was an arrogant, brash ass, but you loved him. You freaking loved him. You couldn't help but love him. It was just like this, and that's part of the reason why Blackadder resented him, is because everybody loved him when he showed up, even though it was like, this guy is kind of a tool, but he was so amazing. At the same time, that's the kind of guy you want your nobleman doing the hunt to be a Lord Flashheart. That's who you want, you know, or Ace Rimmer from Red Dwarf.
It's their anniversary today, apparently.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Freaking A! That's
This
fantastic,
day, 1983 or something like that.
though. For Red Dwarf.
Yep.
Red. All right, let me do a little bit of catching up here. Let's see. Sorry, I missed a bunch while I was rambling. My apologies. I'll go back up. Yes, that's the different. Tuilan. Is it Tuilan? Is that how you pronounce that? I apologize again. I'm so bad with. I like to know people's pronunciation. That's why I ask. But yes, that's the difference between an NPC, a proper NPC, as opposed to a PC with the DM in the party, right? Let's see, Kodo Kansas. In my current campaign, I have included an NPC in the party who has helped the group get started with the story. Once the PCs has kind of bitten into the plot, we're moving through it, and they were pleased. I found a creative way to have the NPC leave the party. See, there you go.
Yep,
That's
works.
a cool one.
That works.
Brennan says usually the DM runs a PC when they're either new or actually wanting to be a player and they're stuck GMing. That's kind of true. Yeah, there's also that. I'm definitely guilty of that because I love being a player, but there's sometimes I want to GM, but I still kind of want to play. You know, I want to be part of the journey. You know, because I also love characters. So if I can throw a bunch of characters into the player's mess, I'm down with that. It always sucks then if it's like, you know, I introduce another character and then the players are like, have that person talk to that NPC. And I'm like, but I'm just going to be talking to myself. I don't want to do that. I want you guys to talk. God dang it. Strega says, Don Carnage from Tailspin. Great villain that you want to love. There you go. Freaking, wow, there's a show I haven't thought about in a long time. Holy scamoli. A lot of the like old school cartoons like that, like Rescue Rangers or even Darkwing Duck, all of like the cool animated stuff, they always had like, you know, there'd either be a one-off villain or there'd be kind of like the main villain who you kind of like even though they're kind of supposed to be the bad guy, you know. Let's see, and Kiefer bringing up the someone better smoke a kipper for their Ace Rimmer reference. Enoch Pratt is now following. Huzzah!
Thank you, Enoch Pratt, for the follow. Very much appreciated. I need another zoom out just so you can see what we're actually drawing. This is the Castle Keeper's Guide, 12 maps for Troll Lord games. The Dungeon Master's Guide, one chapter of which is talking about settlements.
Okay, so Toulon. Thank you, Toulon. Thank you. And Kiefer is a serious red dwarfer. Hey!
Mr. Fibbles puppet. Mr. Fibbles. That was the era of Dwayne Dibley, right? I don't want to be Dwayne Dibley.
Who is Mr. Fibbles?
It might have been Flibble.
Flibble.
Flibble. Flibble.
Mr. Flibble. I have not seen Red Dwarf enough to know who Mr. Flibble is.
Well, but you've watched the entire season of Red Dwarf, or all of them, I should say.
I have, but I'm struggling to. Oh, Mr. Flibble. Hey, okay. Yeah, okay. Oh. Oh no. Okay. 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 Yes.
What? What's going on?
No, I'm looking at the picture of Mr. Flibble, the penguin hand puppet. I'm having flashbacks of the show. I totally forgot about it. Or Tulin. Okay, cool. Tulin. Okay, cool. All right. I don't love, that's going to sound weird. I always want to learn how to pronounce things correctly, especially if something is spelled in a way that I'm not normally familiar with. So thank you for that. Ooh, Obsidian Wrist says, I cannot wait to buy this Castle Keeper's Guide. Huzzah!
Nice. You know, a lot of the time, it's the writers that get the love. Jesus Christ, look at this river. This is really taking shape. But it's the writers that get the love for these things. But I like to think that I put some serious effort into my maps and try to really create something that is quite eye-catching. So it's like, writers, come at me, bruh.
Tulin asks, do you guys use medieval demographics made easy? I'm not familiar what that is.
Well, and I actually, right back last year when we started working on this, I think medieval demographics made it easy was part of the resource that we pulled up, but we also pulled up several other resources, including the first edition of the Castle Keeper's Guide. And we ended up doing a little bit of a hybrid between definitions because there was quite actually some difference with how different documents classified a thorp versus a hamlet versus a village. And there was a certain amount of having to, how do I say this, hit a middle ground because a village had a range, right?
Okay.
But one of the driving factors for me was not at least going completely against the original Swords and Sorcery. Was it Sword and Sorcery? I feel like I'm mixing rule sets now. But not going against the original, at least to a huge degree.
Gaia. Hey, Jay Shields. Howdy.
Hey, Jay. Good to see you, my friend.
Strega says, I have never gone into Castles and Crusades, but your map alone makes me want to get the core rulebook.
Castles and Crusades, thank you, Princess. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
She pulled it. There you go. Oh, so Tulin wants to know, did you end up using other resources or sources? And if so, what do you have the links for them, or can you direct them in a particular area?
Yeah, so Pathfinder had, I don't have links off the top of my head because it was last year now, but Pathfinder had a resource for settlements. The original Dungeons and Dragons DMG had definitions for the original settlements. Those two were definitely part of it. And then I think there was the original Sword and Sorcery. I'd have to pull together a link, so, you know, and point you in the right direction. Because there was, I want to say there was about half a dozen different wiki pages.
Obsidian Risk says, you really help bring the world alive. Huzzah!
Thank you. That is my objective every single time. You know, we actually had Stephen Chenault on the channel last Wednesday, and he was just loving these because there's just so much personality. Like, you know, we got the marching camp, and we added the legions there, including one marching out. You know, we tried to add stupid detail to every single one of these things. So instead of just being an illustration, I wanted it to be more. I want you to be able to look at this and see details, you know, all of the time, and be inspired by it. But, like, go, I want to adventure there. I want to live there. I want my maps to do that. If my maps don't do that, then I feel I have failed. So that's what we're doing. I want them to be inviting. I want you to really get the brain cells going after you look at one of my maps.
Kodo Ken comments, I love watching the process of how an artist creates their work. It's very relaxing to watch and inspiring.
I still struggle to identify myself as an artist.
And then Pex comes in and says that Keep on the Borderlands has a great index for different parts of the keep with proper words and description parts.
Does it though, Pex? Does it?
And to go back to something that Princess actually tagged me in and even highlighted it, and I apologize, Strega, for not saying this before. I have not watched the show on Amazon called Upload. I am aware of it though, and I know the general premise. It's like when you're going to pass, you upload your consciousness into this another world, so you can live. You can basically, after you die, you live on forever in this digital landscape. I love the idea too, and I would love to upload my consciousness so it can basically live for eternity in a digital space, because the thought of death is obviously very scary, especially for an anti-theist like me. But I also think of things, when I think of things like Upload, I think of like the game Soma. If you've ever played that PC game called Soma or have heard of it, it definitely brings up the question of like who what is it that makes you you? Is who you are now you, and if you create a duplicate of that, is that person you, or is that a different entity? You're still you, and this is now a different thing, even though this other thing has all of your memories and has all of your reactions and has all of your feelings. Wouldn't that you be you as well? Well, which you then is the real you, if you have created a separate copy of yourself? So it's kind of an interesting idea.
Yeah, and thanks to Alex Fixon and Tulane for this one. This is exactly, by the way, the type of thing that I was looking at. I didn't go with the exact definition of this. There was a slight variance of it. But this is pretty close. So if we've got a population of 20 people, if you figure that there's about 4 or 5 people per house, that gives you an idea of how many buildings you should be doing. So this is a type of thing that we took a look at. Yes. That reminds me, Jack, actually, of a film, and I forget what it was called now. But I remember the tagline, you can freeze the body, but you can't freeze the soul.
Oh.
And it was all about, cryogenic freezing. And it's like, yeah. And it was about freezing, like a good guy, but like, yeah, his body got froze, but his soul didn't. So when they thawed him out, it was actually like a demon or someone that had possessed him.
What the heck?
That's an 80s film.
I did a search for a movie. Movie, you can freeze the body, but you cannot freeze the soul. It's like the 1992 film Forever Young, and I'm like, no, that's a rom-com, or a rom-dram.
Yeah, it's not Forever Young, believe me.
That is not Forever Young. Oh no, she's talking about bringing back a demon. Good lord. Event Horizon on ice. Ah! Eclipse Phase. I've never even heard of Eclipse Phase. Kiefer wants to know, was that the vampire film where the mafia Don gets turned?
No, it wasn't a vampire film. It was literally like it was back when, like, you know, freezing your head or freezing your body was like coming on vogue as a discussion, right? It was definitely like a 90s thing where the technology of freezing someone and bringing them back later was a thing. You know, it became a conversation in the public sphere. And I forget what this film was called now.
Alex Vixen, who's the knower
Chiller!
of everything.
I bet it was Chiller.
Coming out with Chiller. 1985, Wes Craven's Chiller.
Was it that early? 85?
Chiller is the 1985 American made-for-television horror film directed by Wes Craven. It follows a corporate executive, Miles Crichton, who dies and is cryogenically preserved in the hopes he can later be revived. 10 years later, the procedure is a success and Miles returns, but without his soul.
There you go. You can freeze the body, but you can't freeze the soul. Alex Vixen, you are awesome. Thank you so much. Well remembered.
Holy scamoli. Yeah, Alex, I am flabbergasted by your... It's either you have a big Mekon-like brain or your Google foo is amazing. Either way, I'm very impressed. Princess Strega, yeah, Event Horizon is a fantastic sci-fi horror film. Personally, my favorite is still Alien, the first Alien, but Event Horizon would be in my top 5. 100%. Event Horizon is great. Lord Dalius, we talked about Eclipse Phase. Was I drunk that stream? I don't remember Eclipse Phase, really. It's an RPG that you can play anything in using, supposedly.
That vaguely rings a bell.
Yeah, K first says it's an awesome game. You can literally play anything in it. Wow.
Including a demon that's occupying a frozen head.
Alex Vixen says, I am a well of useless trivia knowledge and have a black belt in Google Foo, so both. Cool. I have a blue belt in no, not a blue belt. I have a purple belt in a little bit lower. I have a purple belt in trivia, and I have a I thought I had a black belt in Google Foo, so maybe I have a red belt with a stripe. I got a red belt with a stripe. Jay Shields, have you ever played Alien Isolation? Alyssa, have you?
I have not. We're talking about the computer game, right?
Mm-hmm.
No. I kind of wanted to, though, but somehow it passed me by.
I know the premise. I know that you play as Ellen's daughter. You play Ripley's daughter. And you get brought into the mission because supposedly they found a lead on your missing mom, because it's that time between the first Alien and the second Alien where Ripley's out there for, what was it, 70 years, 75 years? How long was it that Burke told her she was out there? But it's like one of those things where it's like she had a daughter back on Earth, and so you play as the daughter, and like you get word that maybe your mom's ship has been found, so you go out and you're playing the kid. But the thing is sure, you're like an engineer woman, but it's like you don't have any combat skills, so the whole game is like you're not supposed to fight anything. If you try to fight the alien, you die. That's the whole thing. And so it's all about hiding and running and hiding some more, and don't let the robots see you, because I guess the robots are scary as well, because the robots are tripping. 57 years. Thank you, Kiefer. Between Alien and Alien 2. Oh yeah, I can now imagine freaking little douche nose. 57 years, yeah. Did nobody brief you on this? Oh, I shouldn't be the one to tell you this. God, I hated Burke in that movie. God dang it. Anyways.
Yeah, but
But
he played it good in that when that character is first introduced, you don't hate him at the beginning.
No, totally. When he first comes in, you're kind of like, he's the only one.
He's on her side.
Totally.
Then you
And
find out that he's not.
And the funny thing is Paul Reiser is like, he can play a really likable guy. Like, you remember that show he did with Helen Hunt, Mad About You?
Mm-hmm.
It was such a cute rom-com sitcom. It was so good. He was so likable.
Remember it? I used to watch it. Are you kidding me?
Me too. It was good, but it was one of those things where it's like, how is this is the same guy that was Burke? Holy crap! How can he literally play it? It just shows that he's just a decent actor, And it, funnily enough, and he was in Stranger Things season 2 and 2.
Oh, was he? I forget him in that.
Yeah, he was I can't remember if he showed up at the end of season 1 or not.
Why do I not remember that?
He's like the scientist that's part of the whole thing, who's like on the good side. Like, he's the one that comes in and is like, we gotta fix things because the other scientists were fucking bad guys. Yeah. Tulin says Alien was worse. The theater was full. Oh no, wait a minute, hold on. Okay, so first, hold on, let me go back to your original, Tulin. Let me go to your first one. He first says, my old roommate grabbed my arm during Event Horizon, scared the crap out of me. Yeah, I could get it, especially if it's, yeah, no, I hear you. And then Alien was worse. The theater was full, and I got separated from my family, so I had to sit next to some strangers. So when the alien popped out, the random stranger lady that was sitting next to me grabbed my arm. That would be even scarier. Someone you don't know, like,
and then you're sitting there going, yeah.
I'm scared by the movie, and I'm scared by this random person. Let's see. Okay. Briefly, sci-fi horror is a transhumanist future. I'm sorry, Lord Delius. I'm missing the context of that. My apologies. Let's see. Princess Strega, AI is scary AF. I have watched a friend LP it. Oh, live play it. Okay, so Alien Isolation? Yeah, okay. Yeah. I watched a guy stream it a few years ago, Alien Isolation. So it's like, I know the plot and I know what happens. So it's kind of like I don't need to experience it, but at the same time, I kind of want to experience it, kind of a thing. Lord Delius, red belt with a stripe. Isn't that a sundress? Well, yes, unless you grew up doing martial arts that was a blend of taekwondo and karate, and then red belt with a stripe is the first level of advanced. No, that was it was technically that was the first level of the advanced, basically. You were like pre-master. You needed red belt with a stripe, red belt with 2 stripes, then you got black belt. But you technically were above the advanced class. You had to actually train with black belts if you were a red belt at the dojo I went to. So you were the guy getting your ass kicked all the time. I never got that high, unfortunately. Let's see. Burke was a slimy dingus. I agree. The doctor who created 11. I don't understand that context. What are we talking about? He was one of the doctor's scientists at the facility. Princess says, I am looking forward to season 4 of ST. What's ST? Wasn't he the bald guy? Who's the bald guy? I'm confused. I don't understand what's happening. Paul Rice was awesome. Oh, you're talking about Paul Reiser in Paul Reiser in Stranger Things. No, he wasn't. He was indeed one of the doctor scientists at the facility. He was not bald. He had like grayish hair. And that's what Strega was talking about. She was talking about that she's looking forward to season 4 of Stranger Things. I'm back on track.
Okay, yay, Jack's here.
Yay, me. Hello. Sorry to everybody who's on this delay who's just now catching up. So sorry. Yeah, everybody's clarifying.
It was a little bit like the Julia Robbins meme where you like counted up the fucking like math in your head up here, and then suddenly, you got it. Nice.
Stranger Danger, yes, and thank you. Yes, everybody. Kodo Ken said we have too many conversation sheds. We're throwing Jack off. Yes, and Alex Vixen says Stranger Things. Paul Reiser played Dr. Owens. Okay, who was a scientist in the creation of 11. Yes.
Right. Yeah. Well, God, it feels
actually,
like. Hold on. Was there any Stranger Things last year?
Not last year, no.
So no. They completely skipped a year.
Yeah.
In the show. Okay.
And he wasn't the head scientist of creating 11. That was Matthew Modine's character, right? Paul Reiser was kind of like the good doctor of the facility, while Matthew Modine was like the bad doctor. I'm doing the air quotes. It's going to be one of those things. I mean, Akoto Ken confirms, yeah, we lost a year because of scheduling conflicts and COVID and stuff. It's going to be one of those things, like, these actors are all... They're all so much older now. It's like, how is this going to work? Like, if they don't do that legit time jump, I mean, I know they had spoilers. Well, because I'm about to be vague, so who cares about spoilers? They had characters move away, and some characters get left behind. So it's like, okay, so... But they have another character... in case I missed it. What did I miss? Okay. Princess Strike says, box office, in case you missed it, speaking of martial arts, as soon as the world returns to some semblance of normalcy, I want to take a Kido and some Kendo lessons. Cool. That's good on you. That's awesome. That's awesome. That's what? Lots of throws and lots of swords. Cool. Very cool. Well, I think you practice with a Boken, but still. Hopefully it won't be a Heroes reboot. Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where I was a Heroes fan until I had a kind of a retro look at it. Like I kind of went back and looked at it all. The reboot of Heroes, the reboot / sequel of Heroes was bad, but re-looking at the original series, it was pretty bad too. In my opinion, only the first season. Again, looking at it in retrospect, I at the time I loved all of Heroes, but then looking back at it, I was like, wow, I think the first season was the only good season. I think maybe a couple of hand-picked episodes in the later seasons, but Heroes did not end up going in good places. It ended up being real bad, especially since it liked to retcon itself. Really annoying. Let's see. They're going to age out like a K-pop band. Yeah, Pex, they're going to have to just, like, you know, they swap them out for new members and be like, these are the same characters. We're going to be like, no, they're not. These aren't the same musicians of my band I like. Alex says, Matthew Modine played Dr. Brenner, who was in charge of the Hawkins Research Facility. He was a complete dickhead. And one of those things, though, where it was like, maybe it's just me. I don't know why. I've never liked Matthew Modine, only because I always feel like he was always a dickhead. I don't know the man. I don't know how he was in real life. For all I know, he's the most nice, kind, humble person in the world. But I always got like douche vibes off of Matthew Modine. So when it was like, he's the bad guy and he's a dick, I was like, yeah, he is. Yeah, he is. Screw Matthew Modine. I hate him. Even when he's the protagonist in the movie, I'm always just like, get him out of here. I hate this guy. But I'm biased, so. Akoto Ken, I predict we will see a time jump between 3 and 4 and let the various plot threads bake. Yeah, but what are we going to do about, spoilers, being in a concentration camp in Russia? I mean, what's that about? How are we going to do that?
Yeah, I got the impression that they'd actually filmed some of that content too.
Yeah, because they had footage that they showed of, spoilers, in Russia. doing things. So it's like, okay. Strega says, I came to Lost in the last season. I got lost watching Lost. Yeah, I mean, that's always the... Especially if you have with something with a crazy... let's see, Tulin says, in Northern Shaolin class, we all had black sashes, but we were not considered students until we passed the third form, which took about 1.5 to 2 years. Oh, and you had to wear 3 steel rings on each arm. Whoa, that sounds
trippy. That sounds pretty like hardcore, original almost.
That's pretty. So a Northern Shaolin class. So what type of martial art is that? What is that? If you may elaborate. That sounds crazy. That sounds kind of. It almost sounds really rewarding though. Like imagine if you when you get to the end of it, you're like freaking accomplished. Heck yeah. Akoto Can agreed. Heroes is one of those shows where my recommendations is just to watch the first season. Heroes, True Blood, Firefly. Oh, come on. And he says, sorry, couldn't resist. Yeah, I would recommend only watching the first season of Firefly, you know, if you make sure it's good. Yeah, oh, come on. It didn't even get a full season. Come on. But True Blood, though, I never heard that the other seasons were bad. Is it one of those ones where first season and that's it? Oh, Strega comes in saying, I loved all the seasons of True Blood. Well, hell. And Kai first throws an axe near Kodo. Oh, but he's saying it for the Firefly he mentioned. Okay, and Akoto Ken does clarify. Enjoyed all of the seasons of True Blood, but the first season was definitely the best. Okay. Jay Shield says, slight bit of change of subject here. On that subject, which actors or actresses surprised you when they broke their stereotype, such as always playing the bad guy, but then they have played an incredible good guy in something else? While we're pondering that, I'm going to go get myself a top of a drink, but that's actually a great idea. So what actor or actress that has been stereotyped to shit for a role or a type of role that blew you away when they broke typecast? That's actually a great question. Alyssa, think on that too. I know you're coloring, but come on.
Hey, think about shit. Jay's not the boss of me. Wargaming Recon's here. I didn't know Wargaming was in the house. Good to see you, Wargaming. I'm trying to think of an actor now that got stereotyped, at least in my mind, and then came out and did something completely different. You know, okay, would this be fair for me to say Leonardo DiCaprio? Because in his early career, he was like this little pretty boy toy thing. Him? Actually, okay, so seriously? Actually, you know what? You want to know the one that blew my bloody mind? George Clooney. There's my vote, George Clooney. Because, like, he's doing this medical show, like, forever. And he's, like, this real pretty guy. And then you see him on Dusk Till Dawn. Completely different. Completely different. That, Dusk Till Dawn changed my mind about George Clooney.
Nice.
Jack, what about you?
Well, the easy one that comes to mind for me would be Jim Carrey with Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Oh, that's a good one.
He had done a couple of more dramatic things before that, though. He did I don't know if Truman Show counts. That one's kind of a dramedy. There's a lot of funny in it still, even though it deals with some pretty serious stuff.
I think Truman could count.
It could count. In my opinion, though, his dramatic acting in Truman Show isn't the greatest. And then he did The Majestic, which I wasn't a really big fan of, personally. And actually, now I want to see, when did Man on the Moon come out? In comparison to... So Man on the Moon was 99. And then Eternal Sunshine was 2004. So I guess technically I have to say Man on the Moon. Which was his biopic of Andy Kaufman. I guess technically that would have to be my answer, because that was when it was like, holy crap, Jim's got some dramatic chops. This is supposed to be the funny guy who makes crazy faces on, in Living Color. This is Fireman Jim, Bill, whatever the hell his name was, I forget. It's been so long since I've seen it. But yeah, that's the one that comes immediately to mind. Let me give a think, and I'll think of some others. In the meantime, Tulin gives a clarification on the Northern Shaolin question that I asked. So, Gong Fu, so Chinese. Northern Shaolin is similar to Southern Shaolin, but emphasizes low stances that cover a lot of ground when moving. A lot of weapons were taught at my school too. That's pretty cool. And then it said Northern Shaolin looks similar to Wu Dang to me in a lot of ways. Okay, that's actually kind of awesome. Alex Dixon says Pete Postlethwaite. Okay, so like, can you give me an example of like what, and then like what film or show it was? I know it was Jay that asked the original question, and then for Kiefer it was Bob Kelso. How you doing? AKA Ken Jennings, so the guy who played Bob Kelso in Scrubs. So I'm not familiar with Ken Jennings' other works other than Scrubs. But that for you was an actor that broke out of what was Ken Jennings' original stereotype before he played Bob Kelso? Oh man, Wargaming comes in. Angela Lansbury did a switcheroo in The Manchurian Candidate. Yeah, Angela Lansbury was cold-hearted biatch in that film. Holy scamoli. And anytime I think of Angela Lansbury, I'm just like, aw, Murder, She Wrote. I love her. She's great. She always plays the nice, sweet lady. So Ty Burrell, who played Steve in Dawn of the Dead. Okay, yeah, he was the guy who was the arrogant rich guy who had the boat. He was the guy that they were gonna get on his boat. He was such a jerk, so much so that I couldn't bring myself to watch Modern Family until after it had been out a few years. Once I finally watched Modern Family, I loved his character of Phil Dunphy on the show, and he's actually my favorite character on the show. Okay, so because he was such a douche in Dusk Till Dawn, Dawn of the Dead, you were like, nah, screw that guy. I'm not going to watch his TV show.
And I could see that because you got, we got the same guy who did, well, not the same guy, but the same sort of thing with Game of Thrones, right? Joffrey played Joffrey really well. And Joffrey, the actor that played him, may be an awesome, great guy. I'm not sure I'd ever want to watch anything that he's in.
Well, and the funny thing is, he had something Gleason. What's his name? Joffrey Baratheon was played by Jack Gleason. Yeah, he actually did a talk after Joffrey, spoilers, after he spoilered Game of Thrones, after he died in Game of Thrones, spoilers, he did like it wasn't like a TED Talk, but it was basically like the equivalent of a TED Talk, where he basically was like, he basically was talking about acting, was talking about his experiences on Game of Thrones and stuff, and how he's like I get, like, strangers come up to me in public and get all up in my face and are mad at me, and he's like, I'm an actor. He's like, I was doing my best to do a good performance. And he's like, and I have strangers that literally want to create an altercation with me. And he's like, I have, and he was like, he was the most humble, and he sounded like the sweetest guy ever. And I think he's actually retired from acting. I don't think he's acting
Really?
anymore. Yeah, I think he's like, yeah, I'm done. I think I'm done.
Yeah, that's not cool to go up to an actor and start like tearing into him for that type of thing, for their character. Princess Strega did a time check. Well, we're at the 1:30. Wow, we're at the 1:30 already. Time just blew by. So I guess we'll go for about 10 more minutes. Jack, if you're down.
Sure. See, Strega saying she liked Jim Carrey in that Jim Carrey was a great villain in the Sonic the Hedgehog movie, which we haven't seen that yet. Wargaming agrees that Majestic was a bit of a snooze fest. Pex brings up with Leo that What's Eating Gilbert Grape was a good one. He was really young in that film, though, so... But that's actually a good point. But he became kind of like a pretty boy actor up until... Even if you think about it, even Titanic, he's kind of the pretty boy actor.
Yeah, I mean, Titanic did not change my mind about Leo. I mean, he acted it well and everything. I liked the film Titanic. I'm not going to argue against that. But it didn't change my opinion of Leo. But then you get Gangs of New York.
That was the one for me.
Now I've got a different opinion of Leo.
That was the one for me where I was like, damn, pretty boy guy's got some chops. Let's see, Kiefer says number 23 was a pretty scary film for him. That was the one with Jim Carrey, yeah. Yeah, Tulin, yeah, the Man on the Moon documentary with you is really good. I agree. People should, if people like the Man on the Moon movie with Jim Carrey, where he plays Andy Kaufman, definitely watch the commentary after. I would watch it after, personally, not before. I want to say it's called like Becoming Jim. Hold on, Man on the Moon documentary. Oh no, I'm an idiot. It's called Jim and Andy: The Great Beyond. My apologies. Yeah, it's on Netflix. It's a good one. Lord Delius and Princess Strega both agreeing that the number 23 was pretty good. Alex Fixon, Robin Williams in 1 Hour Photo. There's a stereotype break where you went, whoa. There's a good one.
Actually, that's a good one. That is a good one.
And if you think about it, which one came first, Insomnia or 1 Hour Photo? Because remember, he was also the bad guy in Insomnia, the American remake of Insomnia, the one directed by Christopher Nolan.
Yeah, he played bad guys actually really well.
And he only did it a couple of times, but each time it was like, ooh. Insomnia, let's see, the remake was 2002, and then 1 Hour Photo. They both came out the same year. Well, excuse me, apparently 2002.
I completely forgot about 1 Hour Photo. Holy balls. I've only seen that like once.
Oh, Akoto Ken, you haven't heard of 1 Hour Photo? Yeah, so don't look it up too much, but the basic premise is Robin Williams plays a photo tech at let's say a grocery store 1 Hour Photo kiosk, one of those things.
Back when you developed photos.
When you had to develop photos. This was before digital stuff. And let's just say he gets a little obsessed with family who brings them photos to develop from time to time. Let's just say that he becomes a bit obsessed. Let's just say that. And it's creepy as fuck. I definitely recommend it if you want to see Robin Williams do something totally off type. Oh, so Kiefer clarified. So Ken Jennings, the guy who played Bob Kelso in ER, typically was kind of the reverse stereotype. He typically played really, really nice guys in previous things. And apparently in Scrubs, when he plays kind of the dickhead lead doctor guy, that was him breaking out. Okay.
Help me to help you. Help me to help you. Come on, Bambi.
Well, wait. Is that help me to help you? Isn't that the other doctor?
Oh no, that's the other doctor. Okay. Yeah.
Talking about the older guy, yeah.
I'll shut up now.
No.
I've got
Who's got
Dr.
two thumbs
Cox
in
on
is
the
awesome.
brain.
Yeah, Dr. Cox, that's who you're thinking of. No,
Yeah.
Dr. Kelso is like, who's got two thumbs is awesome. This guy, Bob Kelso. How you doing?
Who's got two thumbs doesn't care less. This guy, Dr. Kelso. Yeah. Someone mentioned Brie Larson before. What was that about?
Yeah, I'm actually would be curious. What is because she
Like
doesn't
someone
have
said, what about Brie Larson? What about Brie Larson?
Yeah, because she hasn't. I mean, she hasn't had the biggest filmography at the moment because she's still pretty early into her career, if I'm not mistaken. So, what is she like? Has she built a stereotype yet?
Are there any actors or actresses that have built stereotypes nowadays? Like, are the the Captain Americas and the Helmsworths of this world, are they doomed now because they're now the Americas and the Thors and everything? Are they screwed? Have they put themselves into a stereotype? I want to say Helmsworth no, actually, just because of the film that Jack we watched about 6 months ago. What was that called? Where he plays like this mercenary dude. Like Extraction. Yeah, there you go.
Extraction. Hey, we both got it at the same time. Yeah. But I got to admit, everything he done, okay, he's starting to do things outside of the MCU where we care. But when he first started doing stuff in the beginning of his career, it was all kind of like, oh good, he's Thor again. He's not doing Thor.
Right.
Oh good, he's Thor again. Whew.
Oh shit! What was that? What
Extraction was super intense.
It
was great though. Directed by, I don't remember his name off the top of my head. Alex Hudson's probably gonna slap me with that trivia. But he's directed by the guy. He actually stars as the sniper bearded guy, who's Chris Evans' stunt double in a lot of the MCU films. Him and his brother do a lot of MCU stunt work. He was the guy who directed that film, the stunt guy. And again, he played Sniper Beardface in the movie. I don't think his character even had a name. It was probably Sniper Beardman. Oh yeah. Princess Strega says she still needs to see Gangs New York. It's a good one, Strega. It's long. It's really long. But it's really good. And Obsidian Risk says, yeah, you've got to have some real chops to even hang with Daniel Day-Lewis. I agree. That film, if anything, I hate to say it because I'm sure there's people in the chat who like her, but that film proved to me personally that Cameron Diaz does not have the chops to hang with these people. But Leo was like, I've got the chops, and Daniel Day-Lewis was his aura was like, I accept you into my own. You have good acting chops, please. Yeah, long film, definitely a commitment. I feel like I need to do a Gangster New York rewatch.
Me too. Count me in.
Tulin says that they actually didn't like 1 Hour Photo. It made me to me it represents the downturn in Robin Williams' career that might have led to his suicide.
Oh, interesting.
While I do hear you, and I don't want to invalidate your opinion on it, from the people that were close to him that came out after he did pass, like Whoopi Goldberg and Billy Crystal, it sounded like Robin Williams had been actually battling depression and thoughts of suicide for decades. So like when we were seeing him, when they were all doing that laugh special, the big fundraiser they used to do every year for like what was it called, like Just for Laughs or something. I guess it was one of those things where he had been troubled for a very, very long time. And you're right, actually, to tell you the truth, it might have led in his final decline. Maybe it ended up becoming too much for him at the end. But Gillian
Anderson just got mentioned. and Spader in Stargate. I'm going to need some context on these.
James Spader in Stargate. Interesting. Okay. And Alex Vixen, you answered about Postlethwaite. Let me go back up to find your thing about Postlethwaite. Pete Postlethwaite usually played the nicest people in most of his films and TV seasons, and he's a sweetheart in real life. Or he was a sweetheart, yes, because he passed. And then you see him played Obadiah Haxwell in the Sharp series. You know, it's funny. I knew about that. So I've never read the series, and I've only seen about half of the seasons. But I have seen the episodes of the show with him in it. And the thing was, is Alyssa told me about the character when she was reading the books. She told me about the character before I'd even seen the show, and she hadn't even seen the show either. I mean, no, she had seen some of the show, but not the entirety. And when she was describing this character, funnily enough, I was actually thinking, because I actually knew Postlethwaite when he was doing actually like scummy things, I was imagining somebody kind of like him, not specifically him, but then when we saw that it was him that was playing Haxwell in the show, I was like, oh, perfect casting. He's so good at being a bad guy. That's perfect.
There were plenty of times with those books where I genuinely put the book down, didn't want to read anymore, ever. Done. Fucking done. And it was always Haxwell.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic.
Then I would realize that any character that can make you hate the story so much is a win, and it's just good writing. And like, I would grow up, I'd put my big girl pants on, and I would read the next chapter, and Sharp would come through. Yay, Sharp! But there were so many times where I hated that freaking character.
And a couple of people have some good points here, like with Tulin and Nikoto Ken coming in with and Tulin bringing up the original Gillian Anderson post. I guess there are some actors that have get into a TV role, but because they're on that show for so long, they kind of get stuck with it. That's the Gillian Anderson that got brought up. Tulin says the Gillian Anderson in the X-Files, and how she was able to break out of that. That's actually a really good point. Sometimes actors play a character for so long. They also bring up David Tennant was able to break away from his Doctor Who stint.
Yeah, he has managed to, because I think there was that real risk of him getting typecast for that.
Totally.
I think that's what Tom Sawyer, going back even earlier, I think that's one thing that he hated, was that he got typecast as Doctor Who.
Who?
Sawyer. Baker.
Oh,
Tom Baker.
Okay, Tom Baker. Yeah. No, yeah, Scarf Doctor. Yeah. Good point. And I think if you think about it, I kind of think Matt Smith might be there as well.
Yeah, Matt Smith, I think, falls into that category.
If you think about it, he's done a lot of stuff since Doctor Who, but nothing's been like a hit for him. Not really. Like, everything he's been a part of has been kind of like, eh. So it's like, yeah, is he always going to be known as the, bow tie wearing Doctor Who? Is that going to be his biggest thing?
Well, okay then. Let me throw out this one. Hamill.
Mark Hamill?
Yep.
I would say almost, because he ended up becoming a voice actor. And a lot of people consider him to be the best Batman villain Joker of all time. Because he did Batman the Animated Series, he did all of the animated asterisk, all of the animated stuff, aside from a few things, including the voice of the Joker in a lot of the video games. So Mark Hamill, in a weird way, because he went to primarily animated voicing, voice acting, and he only did some stage acting. Yes, he is. No one will ever, like, I say the Big Red one. Most people go, "What the fuck is that?" It's like, well, it's the World War II film Mark Hamill was in. People go, "What the hell?" Hell, I could say Sushi Girl, which came out like in the 2000s, and people are gonna go, "What's that?" I'll be like, it was a crime drama thriller where he plays one of the bad guys, or he's in the first Kingsman, is like the kind of patsy guy in the beginning of the movie. But yeah, most people go Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker, done. Wasn't able to break out. But Mark Hamill though did kind of break out because it's like he's either Luke Skywalker or he's the Joker. Those are his two. He's got two. Or he was in that episode of What We Do in the Shadows. Just saying.
Yeah, fair.
That episode alone breaks him out of Luke Skywalker. when he goes to Laszlo. I mean, no, sorry, not Laszlo. Jackie Tatona, human bartender. It's the toothpick, you see. It's my disguise. There we go. Wargaming bringing up Daniel Radcliffe and Swiss Army Man. Okay.
Yeah.
I personally did not like Swiss Army Man, but it definitely was a departure from what he normally does. I know a lot of people said his stage performance of Equus was his big breakthrough outside of Harry Potter. I liked him in Guns Akimbo, even though the movie was stupid as hell.
I want to say Radcliffe has actually done a very good job of shaking off the Harry Potter roots.
Yeah, because if you think about it, the guy who played his co-star, the red-haired guy who played Ron Weasley, Rupert Grint is his name. He has not. He's been in like a bunch of stuff, but it's like you never hear about it. You never hear about it. Wait, hold on. Let me go back up. Let me go back up because there's a couple of comments here. Hold on. Tulin says, I'm still hoping Richard Ayoade could play a future Doctor. Let me look up who this is. Richard. I'm still looking for the clarification of what we were talking about of Brie Larson. Richard Ayoade. Oh, that's the guy that was in the IT. I don't know. Is the guy from the IT crowd? The guy with the bit like the fro? I don't know. Him as the Doctor? Okay, that would be funny if it was gonna be like you know what? It would be great if it was one of those comedic episodes where he's not really the Doctor, but he's kind of the Doctor. That'd be kind of funny. Like the what's his name who played the governor from Walking Dead. There was that episode where he thought he was the Doctor. Magnificent Peck says, I am going to flip the script. Joe Pesci in Home Alone. Going from perma-mod type to the comedy slapstick. That's a great...
Yeah, but I could also say that Pesci in bloody Lethal Weapon. Same thing. Okay, whatever.
He plays Leo Getz in Lethal Weapon 2.
He goes from playing a dude that will stab you with a pen until you're dead to comic relief. Like, yeah, he...
That's a good point. I think she's got you on that, Pex.
Well, you know, I guess I'm agreeing with Pex, really, just on a different film.
This is a competition to the death. You won. You got it.
Wait, it would just one of us die now?
2-man ends up. 1 man leaves. Okay, so Princess Dragon says, I'd love to see Crispin Glover as the Doctor. Whoa. That would be the creepiest, oddest Doctor of all time. And he wouldn't even be intentionally creepy. Odd, yes. Creepy, natural byproduct. Wow, that would be... Don't you have to be UK or UK adjacent to be the Doctor?
I don't know. I don't know if they have rules like that, but I'm going to guess so. British show and all the rest of it. It would have to be an American or someone else from around the world that the Brits loved to get away with not being a Brit. I actually think that would be a harder sell than having a female Doctor. Talking of which, we're going to have a new Doctor here shortly, right?
I don't know. I've heard so many things around it. I didn't hear Jodie Whittaker was leaving, yet supposedly they were lining up new Doctors. So I don't know.
Mr. Blue Cake. I just love the names that you guys and girls come out with. Mr. Blue Cake. Thank you for the follow.
That's blub cake.
Blub cake. Oh, that's not so good. I'm a blub cake right here.
Let's see. Tulin's not a Radcliffe fan. It's understandable. Strega agrees. Guns Akimbo was amazing. I like that it was. I'm kind of a mixed minds. Part of me is like it was amazing, and part of me is like this is such crazy trash. It's like one of those things where it's like they're not mutually exclusive. It could be amazing trash. That's okay with that. It's pretty good. I think Alyssa fell asleep when we were watching it. I don't think it held her.
I did, but that's nothing to talk about. I mean, I fall asleep downstairs a lot, and a movie can be holding me. I'll still fall asleep.
That's true. That's true. Obsidian Risk, Daniel Radcliffe in Horns. I've actually never seen Horns. And then Akoto Kan, Daniel Radcliffe in The Women in Black. Oh yeah, that was.
He was pretty good in that.
I wanted to like it so much. I never saw the original, so I had nothing to compare it to. It's like I liked half of the movie. It's like half of it was really good, and then the other half was I was kind of like, eh.
The original scared the shit out of me, but I think that was because, but it hasn't aged particularly well, you know. So I'm going to be fair on that front. But it did scare the shit out of me back in the day. The Radcliffe one actually didn't, and I was quite surprised. With modern filmmaking techniques, I honestly thought that it was just going to make me pee my pants. And it didn't.
Tulin, you say that Benedict Cumberbatch from Sherlock to other movies. So are you saying that he did good in Sherlock, but everything else you've been kind of meh on? Is that what you're trying to say? And then Strega comments that, yeah, Rowan Atkinson did the doctor, not a doctor, but not the doctor thing. Yeah, that was like it was like an extended, like, you know, ad or something. It was some like kind of like promo thing that they were doing where he was playing the doctor, but he wasn't really the doctor.
And so there's an actor where I've got nothing against Rowan Atkinson, and I think, shit, what did I just do? I feel like he's, oh, for fuck's sake, really? I don't even know I managed to do this. But so Rowan Atkinson definitely is fine doing what he does. I have no bones against him at all. But I don't think he can branch out into any other role. I've yet to watch him in something where I just don't see Rowan Atkinson, you know?
Yeah, he's either, in my opinion, he's either Bean or Blackadder.
Yeah.
And
he's a fine actor, but I don't think he can transcend past that point.
Yeah. Obsidian Risk bringing up Joe Pesci and the Lethal Weapon. They F you at the drive-thru. Yeah, they do. Oh, and Pex Yields, Lethal Weapon 2, 1989, Home Alone, 1990. You win, Alyssa.
I haven't actually watched Home Alone.
Really?
Mm-mm.
It's actually, I haven't watched it in many years. To the chat, has Home Alone aged well? Curiosity. I don't know. Okay, there's the so Princess Strega saying that she's not a fan of Jodie Whittaker as the Doctor. Let's see, and then Tulin says if you're gonna play the Doctor, you should be some kind of unknown.
I think that's fair.
And Tulin says that they like Jodie Whittaker, but she's a little too mellow compared to the other Doctors. And I think that was what they were actually kind of trying to do. That was part of the reason why I think they actually decided to do away with, like, I think in the first season they tried to do away with a lot of the crazy fantastical alien stuff. Like, because Doctor Who got crazy sci-fi alien everything. I mean, up to that point, like they were bringing up some crazy sci-fi stuff, and I think they wanted to try to tone it down. If I'm not mistaken, does she not have the TARDIS like in the whole first season? Maybe second season? I don't know. I haven't seen any of Jodie's Doctor episodes, but I think they kind of did what they did with who was the guy before Tom Baker, Alyssa? I never watched his, but you did.
Oh, Pertwee.
Pertwee. Yeah, they did away with the TARDIS for his entire run. He had like the
the car. Yeah.
He had the car because he was like Earth based. That's what they were trying to do with Jodie. I think.
Oh really? I didn't know that.
To my knowledge, and I might be wrong. Chat, let me know if I'm wrong. But I think they grounded her. I don't know if the TARDIS was gone or if it was broken or whatever. But if I'm not mistaken, I think she stuck to Earth like the entire first and maybe second season. Oh, she does have the TARDIS.
Yeah, Princess Stricker says you're full of shit, Jack.
All right, well, I heard that.
In fact, Princess Stricker says, "Oh Jesus Christ, Jack, shut your mouth."
Oh, well, sadness. Mr. Blipcake said that conversation. I felt so at home. Which conversation? I'm sorry. I'm just now catching up with the chat. Alex also did not like Jodie as the Doctor. Okay. Akoto Ken says, I need to watch the end of Peter's run and then Jodie's work. I'm a bit behind. I too am a bit behind. I last I saw was Capaldi's end. Alyssa and I watched Capaldi from the get-go, from like right after Smith, and neither one of us really liked it, so we stopped. But then, like years later, I ended up rewatching it from the beginning and watched it entirely without Alyssa. And at first I was kind of like, yeah, I think we were right in like stopping this. This isn't very good. But he eventually grew on me, and the episodes started getting better, and it made me kind of go, wow, was it the writing team that was failing for him? And then as the seasons went on, I was kind of like, yeah, they're trying to do their best, but I kind of think his Doctor got killed because I don't think the writing team was doing a good job with these episodes, because he was good, but the episodes around him were kind of crap. There were some great episodes that Capaldi had. Don't get me wrong. There were some great episodes he had. But like as a whole, it was like, wow, he's a great Doctor with shit writers.
I was actually done with Doctor Who even before he came on board, and I didn't really even truly understand why. But it was down to the writing. It was 100% down to the writing. I forget now if it was Matt Smith or whatever, but he went out in such a whiny way that was just like not the Doctor. Like I was done. I was already checking out.
Yeah, I do actually remember that. I think the one you might be referring to, I think, was Tennant right before Smith. He went out super whiny. Eccleston went out great. Tennant went out super whiny, and Smith didn't go out whiny, but he went out super dramatically. Like, I'm gonna die and I'm gonna be gone forever. But it's one of those things where with the other Doctors, it's kind of like Eccleston did it in season 9, or which is whatever. He's the 9th Doctor. It's season 1 of the reboot / continuation. But he was like, he had the best because he was like, hey, Rose, don't worry. I'm going to go and you're going to be scared. But it's going to be okay because even though I'm going to go, I'm still going to be here. And it's not, that doesn't make any sense. And I know that doesn't make any sense. But trust me, you know me. I'm the Doctor and I will always care for you. And she was like, I don't understand. He's like, I know. And you're scared. And I understand that. But I have to go now. And you're like, okay, cool. This is how it is. And then David Tennant's like, I don't want to go. And it's like, bro, you're not going anywhere. It's still you. You're still the same.
And he knows it
entity.
too.
And I know, and it bugged me. And then Smith was like, and I've got to go, and it's so sad, and I'm gonna draw this out forever, and I'm gonna think about all of my times that I was a Doctor. And it's like, you're still the Doctor. Why are they doing these big depressing departures when it's like they lost who the Doctor was? It's like they didn't understand. And then Capaldi Doctor did it a little bit. He did the dramatic exit better because he was like, I'm going, and so next iteration of me, please remember these things. He ends with going, you're gonna change, you're gonna be different, you're gonna be of a different mindset. Don't forget these key things. These are the things that I learned. Don't lose these. Remember to be kind. Remember to forgive people. He like tries to go through all the lessons he learned as the Doctor. So it's kind of a cool dramatic exit. While Matt Smith was more lamenting of like all the things he's going to lose by leaving. It's like, no, you don't lose all those. Those are all still part of you. And Capaldi's like, so these are part of me. Don't forget it. These are important. Because the doctors do kind of shift in their personality each time. And it's like, don't be woe is me. Be it's all good, bro. It's all good. We're good.
All right, catch up on the chat a little bit. I think we are going to be ending the stream right about here. We actually went to 2 hours tonight. Look at that.
Huzzah!
It was good chat.
Akoto Ken, speaking of breakout rules, watch Tom Holland in The Impossible and then compare it to his work in Spider-Man. He is great in both, and he demonstrates that he has quite the range, quite the range, and has the potential as an actor. Nice. I also want to see that new film of his called Cherry, where he's a war veteran who comes back and he's addicted to drugs and turns to robbing banks to fuel his addiction to painkillers and stuff because he has wounds. Macaulay Culkin is now 40. Thanks, Pex. Thanks for that. I don't need that reminder. Mr. Blubcake says, also would be even weirder to have an American doctor than a female one. I agree. An American doctor would be very strange. Alex Vixen agrees. Capaldi had great promise as a doctor. Tulen says, I got burned out on Moffat's writing. I agree. It started out great, and then it kind of was not. And then Strega says, the final Capaldi episode sold her on the Doctor. Yep. And Tennant says, Tennant was great, but was always kind of emo. But then Strega says, she cried when Tennant regenerated. Good point. Obsidian Risk preemptively saying, good night. Good night.
All right. So I'm going to probably go for about 30 more seconds, just so you guys and girls know.
Thanks for hanging out, everybody. The stream tonight has been awesome.
Yeah, super stream tonight.
We thought it was going to be super quiet. Thank you all.
Yeah, the internet has been quiet today, you know? So I actually thought that hardly anyone would turn up. But it's been a super chat. Thank you so much. I'm just going to try and get these couple of buildings in here. And what I want to do is I want to try something. I'm actually going to do this. And I want to see if this worked. Yes, it fucking worked. Excuse my French. Right the hell on. Instant shadows. Freak yes. Oh yeah, this thing's coming to life already. It will be the fastest I've ever painted a metropolis city. Look at them bad boys come to life. Hell of the yes.
So Tulin comes in and says, so are you going to do my maps for me then?
Speed drawing.
And Princess goes, redeem shadows.
That was some fast shadowing right there. That was some fast shadowing. I might come over and actually, you know, touch some of these up a little bit, but at the end of the day, it could take me over 100 hours to draw Metropolis easily. Sometimes a lot more. And, you know, Trollord Games don't want me doing that. We'll be putting in so many hours on this thing. But that's not what they're after. They're after a full-page illustration about what a Metropolis would look like. And I think I have just very quickly colored this. I'm going to do a deselect. Jesus Christ. I'm okay with that. I am okay with that.
Jay Shield says, next modification is to alter the color of each brush tip. Gives a super quick variation.
Yeah, actually, that's a good idea too. Actually, I really like that idea, Jay. I really like that idea. Yeah, I'll do that on the next one.
Nice. Thank you, Wargaming, for pimping out her social media channels. Everybody, as you can see, Wargaming Recon has put out all of Alyssa's social media channels. Go ahead and check her out. Give her a follow. She posts all day, every day. She's kind of a social media
Whore?
longer.
Oh, okay. Your word's better.
Your word, not mine. But it's good. It's good.
I'm okay with that. That actually came out really so good, so fast. I'm a happy camper. Okay, so with that said, I think we are going to do the credits of praise. The credits of praise are you Twitch subscribers and my Patreon backers. Huge amount of love to every single one of you. If you don't know about this, all of you Twitch subscribers get Patreon perks at whatever pledge level you're backing at. This is a thing now. Patreons, head over to patreon.com/AlyssaFaden. Just check out the type of things that I've got going on over there. If you've enjoyed this stream, join me again for the rest of this week, because we are going to be working on something very different. We're doing Necropolis for Fraud God Games. We're going from this scale right down into the dungeons. And I'm actually hoping this week we finish the Necropolis first level map. So that'll be fun. I'm back tomorrow, 5:30 Pacific time, 8:30 Eastern Standard Time. If you're Central Time, it doesn't exist. Until then, Jack, thanks, babe. You were awesome tonight.
Yeah, just doing what I do.
Doing what I do. So all of you, thanks for hanging out. I love you. Huge amount. I'll see you on the flip side. Join me tomorrow. God, I love how this map is turning out. See you tomorrow, everyone. Love you.